Captain Laura Mercer stared at the main screen of the UNS Defiant. She blinked twice, not believing what she saw. 3 massive ships had appeared near Earth's orbit, seemingly out of nowhere. They were unlike anything humans had ever built, sleek dark vessels with glowing blue lines running along their hulls. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear building inside her. "Unknown vessels, Captain," replied Lieutenant Paul Grant from the sensor station. "They're huge, each one about 3 miles long. No match to any known design. They're not responding to hails." Laura gripped the arms of her command chair. The Defiant was an experimental ship, equipped with new defensive technology that was still being tested. They had been on a routine patrol when the strange ships appeared. "All stations, go silent," she ordered. "Passive scans only. Let's not draw attention to ourselves." The crew worked quietly at their stations as the Defiant drifted behind a cluster of defunct satellites. They watched in horror as the alien vessels moved into attack positions. "Captain, they're powering weapons," Paul shouted. Before Laura could respond, beams of intense green energy shot from the alien ships, striking the International Space Station and 3 commercial satellites. The structures exploded instantly. "My God," whispered Communications Officer Kate Nelson. There were 37 people on that station. Laura felt sick, but kept her expression neutral. "Record everything. We need to gather as much intelligence as possible." More beams lashed out, this time directed at Earth itself. Through the ship's sensors, they watched as explosions bloomed across the planet's surface. "They're targeting military installations," said Weapons Officer Greg Daniels. "Peterson Space Force Base, Vandenberg, Norfolk Naval Base, they're all being hit simultaneously." "How do they know where to strike?" Laura asked, mostly to herself. The aliens had perfect knowledge of Earth's defenses, which meant they'd been watching humanity for some time. "Captain, we're receiving emergency broadcasts from all over Earth," Kate reported, her hand pressed to her earpiece. "It's chaos down there. The attacks are worldwide." Laura made a difficult decision. The Defiant was armed, but engaging 3 vessels of that size would be suicide. More importantly, they seemed to be the only military ship that hadn't been detected. "We hold position," she announced. "We gather intel and stay hidden. We may be Earth's only eyes in orbit now." Down on Earth, Eric Mitchell had just finished his morning coffee when the world changed forever. The former Marine was working as a defense contractor at Peterson Space Force Base when the first explosions hit. The blast threw him against a wall, but his military training kicked in immediately. He grabbed his emergency kit from under his desk and helped those he could on his way out of the collapsing building. Outside was hell. Green beams cut through the clouds, slicing through concrete and steel like they were paper. Aircraft attempting to take off were destroyed before they could leave the ground. Eric led a group of survivors to the relative safety of a maintenance tunnel. "What's happening?" asked a young technician, blood streaming from a cut on her forehead. "We're under attack," Eric said simply, applying a bandage from his kit to her wound, "and not by any country on Earth." As they huddled in the tunnel, Eric watched the attack through a ventilation grate. Something about the assault seemed familiar to him, the way the attackers prioritized targets, how they established containment zones around key facilities. Despite their advanced technology, the aliens were following recognizable military doctrine. "They're fighting like we would," he muttered. "What?" asked Colonel Alan Foster, who had joined their group of survivors. "The aliens," Eric explained. "They're using tactics similar to our own. First, take out command and control, then air defenses, then communication networks. It's like they read our playbooks." The colonel nodded slowly. "That could be useful information, if anyone's left to use it." In a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Samantha Wells was rushed through blast doors by stern-faced security personnel. The xenolinguist and theoretical physicist had spent years developing models for potential alien communication. Now her theoretical work had become desperately practical. The underground command center was in controlled chaos as military officers shouted orders and technicians worked frantically at their stations. General Frank Rivera spotted Samantha and waved her over. "Dr. Wells, we've managed to intercept some of their transmissions," he said without preamble. We need to understand what they're saying. Find out what they want. Samantha nodded, already. Reaching for the tablet a lieutenant handed her. I'll need access to the main computer system and everything we've recorded from them so far. She worked furiously, analyzing patterns in the alien communications. Hours passed as reports of devastation came in from around the world. Major cities were under attack. Millions were already dead. Earth's military forces were fighting back, but their weapons seemed almost useless against the alien ships. I think I've got something, Samantha finally said. The general and his staff gathered around her workstation. Their language uses a mathematical structure I've theorized before, and I've identified repeated patterns when they target different types of facilities. She displayed a series of waveforms on the main screen. This pattern appears when they target military bases. This one for power plants, and this one for communication centers. Can you translate what they're saying? The general asked. Samantha shook her head. Not yet, but I can tell you this. They're methodical. Each target is specifically categorized and prioritized. This isn't random destruction. Back in orbit, Laura Mercer and her crew continued to record everything they could about the alien vessels. They had maintained their hiding position for 18 hours, watching as Earth burned. Below them. Captain, I've analyzed their shield frequencies, reported Engineer Joe Bennett. Their technology is advanced but not incomprehensible. With some modifications, our weapons might be able to penetrate their defenses, at least partially. Laura nodded. Keep working on it. What about their communication systems? They're using some kind of quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication, said Kate. But there are patterns we can detect, even if we can't understand the content yet. Laura looked at the main screen, where the 3 alien ships now orbited Earth like predators circling wounded prey. Earth's nations had thrown everything they had at the invaders: nuclear missiles, experimental energy weapons, swarms of drones, but nothing had made a significant impact. We need to understand them better before we make a move, Laura decided. Deploy our stealth drones. I want detailed scans of those ships. As the first day of the attack ended, humanity faced a grim reality. Earth was not alone in the universe, and their first contact had come in the form of an overwhelming assault. Over 30 million people were dead. Major cities burned. The technological gap between humanity and their attackers seemed insurmountable, yet in different corners of the ravaged planet, people like Eric Mitchell and Samantha Wells were beginning to understand their enemy. Captain Laura Mercer and the crew of the Defiant remained undetected in orbit, gathering crucial intelligence. The aliens had attacked without warning or mercy, but they would soon discover that humans were not as easily conquered as they had expected. As night fell across North America, Eric Mitchell led his group of survivors away from the ruins of Peterson Base. They think they know us because they've studied our tactics, he told the colonel, but they don't understand what humans do when we're backed into a corner. In her underground facility, Samantha Wells made a breakthrough in understanding a key section of the alien transmissions. The message she decoded made her blood run cold. She rushed to the general station. I know who they are, she said. They call themselves the Crevan Empire, and they're not here to communicate. According to this transmission, Earth has already been classified as a pre-spacefaring primitive society to be processed and utilized as a resource colony. The general's face hardened. Then we'll just have to change their classification system. 2 weeks passed since the Crevan Empire's attack on Earth. The situation seemed hopeless. The aliens had established bases in what used to be major cities. Their ships controlled the skies. Their advanced weapons made most human military efforts seem useless. Millions more had died as the invaders secured their hold on the planet. Captain Laura Mercer kept the UNS Defiant hidden in the shadow of old satellites. Her crew worked in shifts, some sleeping while others monitored the enemy. The ship had become a spy post, collecting vital information about the invaders. Launch another stealth drone, Laura ordered. I want fresh scans of their command ship. Engineer Joe Bennett nodded and sent the small drone on its way. The Defiant had a limited number of these drones, so each launch was a risk. But the information, they gathered was worth it. "Captain, I've been studying their communication patterns," said Kate Nelson, showing Laura a tablet. "Despite their advanced technology, their network security has gaps. There are ways we might be able to break into their systems." Laura leaned forward. "Show me." Kate pointed at the screen. "They use a predictable encryption pattern. It's very complex, but it repeats every 76 hours. If we can capture the full cycle, we could potentially insert our own commands or listen in on their communications." "How long until we have a complete cycle recorded?" Laura asked. "We need another 18 hours of data," Kate replied. Laura nodded. "Make it happen." On the ground, the ruins of Denver had become a base for human resistance. Eric Mitchell led a group of survivors who had escaped from military bases and nearby towns. They set up in the underground levels of collapsed buildings, using the rubble as camouflage against Creven scanners. "Their patrol is coming through again," said Linda Harris, a former police officer who worked as Eric's scout. "Same route, same time as yesterday." Eric made a note in his worn notebook. "They never change their patterns. That's something we can use." He had been carefully documenting Creven behavior. The aliens stood 7 feet tall with 4 arms and gray-green skin. Their body armor seemed impenetrable to normal bullets, but Eric had noticed important weaknesses. "They can't see well in the dark," he told the group gathered around a dim light. "Their eyes are adapted for a brighter world than ours, and they move slowly in our gravity. It seems stronger than what they're used to." Among the group was Jeff Bradley, a former Army Ranger. "We've been testing different approaches. Their armor stops bullets, but the joints are vulnerable, and they rely too much on their technology. When it fails, they get confused." Eric nodded. "Tonight we put all this knowledge to use. We're going to hit their outpost in Boulder." The group spent the day preparing. They modified weapons, studied maps, and went over the plan repeatedly. Their target was a small Creven facility that seemed to be a communication relay. Taking it out would disrupt enemy operations in the area, but more importantly, they hoped to capture Creven technology. In Dodim, the secure mountain facility, Dr. Samantha Wells had made progress understanding the Creven language. Working with a team of linguists and computer specialists, she had created a basic translation program. "It's not perfect," she explained to General Rivera, "but we can now understand about 40% of their communications." "What have you learned?" the general asked. Samantha displayed a 3D map on the main screen. "The Crevens are an empire that controls hundreds of worlds. They've been expanding for centuries, conquering species they consider inferior, which is basically everyone they meet." She pointed to a damaged tablet recovered from a downed Creven scout ship. "This contains partial star maps and records. Earth wasn't randomly targeted. We're on the edge of what they call their expansion zone, planets marked for colonization." The general frowned. "How do they normally handle resistance?" "That's the interesting part," Samantha said. "According to their records, they rarely face significant resistance. Most species surrender after the initial attack. They're not prepared for an enemy that keeps fighting back. Then we'll give them something new to experience," the general said grimly. As night fell, Eric led his team toward the Creven outpost. They moved silently through the ruins of Boulder, using the darkness as cover. The alien facility glowed with blue light, surrounded by a perimeter of motion sensors that the humans had carefully mapped. "Remember," Eric whispered to his team, "disable the sensors first, then target the guards at the junction points. Use the EMP devices on their vehicles before attacking the main building." The attack began with tiny drones dropping homemade EMP devices on the sensor grid. As sections of the perimeter went dark, human fighters moved in. They used night vision goggles salvaged from military bases, equipment the Crevens didn't know humans possessed. The aliens responded slowly to the attack, confused by the sudden sensor failures. When they emerged from their buildings, they were met with targeted shots at the joints in their armor. Their superior weapons meant little when they couldn't see their enemies clearly in the darkness. Inside the Creven facility, Jeff and his team placed explosives at key points while Eric led another group to what appeared to be a control room. There they found what they were looking for: Crevan communication devices. Grab everything you can, Eric ordered as alarms blared. We have 3 minutes before the charges blow. The team stuffed backpacks with alien technology and data crystals. As they retreated, the explosives detonated, collapsing part of the facility. The humans vanished into the night before Crevan reinforcements arrived. In orbit, the UNS Defiant detected the explosion and the sudden increase in Crevan communications. Something's happening in Boulder, Kate reported. The Crevans are sending reinforcements from Denver and Fort Collins. Laura smiled slightly. Looks like we're not the only ones causing trouble. Keep monitoring their channels. If humans on the ground are fighting back, we need to find a way to coordinate with them. Joe rushed into the bridge, excitement clear on his face despite his exhaustion. Captain, we've done it. We've completed a full cycle of their encryption pattern. We can break into their communication system now. This was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. Set up a secure channel, Laura ordered. Let's see what our enemy is saying to each other. Hours later, as the resistance fighters celebrated their victory in their hidden base, Eric examined the captured Crevan devices. We need to figure out how these work, he said. If we can listen to their communications, we can anticipate their movements. Linda pointed to a particular device that was still glowing. This one seems to be receiving signals. Maybe we can trace them back to source. In the mountain facility, Dr. Wells was alerted to unusual activity detected by their remaining satellite network. There was an attack on a Crevan outpost in Boulder, an analyst reported. It appears to have been conducted by human forces. Can we contact them? Samantha asked. Not directly, the analyst replied, but they left a pattern in their attack. Explosions timed to match an old military distress code. They're looking for others like them. Samantha turned to General Rivera. We need to find a way to reach these resistance groups. If we can share what we know about the Crevans, coordinate our efforts, work on it, the general ordered. If humans are fighting back across the planet, we need to unite them. As dawn broke over the ruins of Boulder, the Crevans assessed the damage to their outpost. A commander filed a report to the main fleet. Human resistance stronger than anticipated. Request additional security forces. The reply came quickly. Negative. No additional forces available. Current deployment deemed sufficient for primitive species. Neutralize resistance with existing resources. The Crevans had made a critical error. They had brought relatively few troops to Earth, relying on their technological superiority rather than numbers. They had expected quick submission, not organized resistance. And they certainly hadn't expected humans to start capturing and using their own technology against them. In 3 separate locations, humans had scored their first real victory against the invaders. Captain Mercer had broken their communication codes. Eric Mitchell had proven they could be fought on the ground, and Dr. Wells had discovered that the Crevan Empire, for all its power, had a fundamental weakness. They underestimated any species they considered primitive. The Crevans had attacked Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened, a sleeping giant that was learning, adapting, and preparing to fight back. 3 months had passed since the Crevan Empire attacked Earth. The world looked very different now. Major cities lay in ruins. Billions of people had lost their homes. Millions had died. But something unexpected was happening. Humanity was fighting back, and the aliens were losing ground. What began as scattered resistance groups had grown into a coordinated global force. Humans shared information through hidden networks, passed knowledge about Crevan weaknesses from one group to another, and planned attacks with increasing success. Captain Laura Mercer had transformed the UNS Defiant into something new. Using parts salvaged from destroyed satellites and damaged Crevan ships, her crew had enhanced the vessel's capabilities. Engineer Joe Bennett led teams working day and night to incorporate alien technology into the ship's systems. We've doubled our weapon power, Joe reported on the bridge, and the new shields can withstand at least one direct hit from a Crevan destroyer. Laura nodded. What about the communication system? Kate Nelson smiled as she turned from her station. Better than we hoped. We're not just listening to their communications anymore, we can send false information. Yesterday, we sent 3 Crevan patrols on wild goose chases after phantom human bases. The Defiant was no longer alone in orbit. 2 other Earth ships had survived the initial attack by being in deep space during training exercises. Laura had made contact with them, and together they formed the core of a small human space fleet. The Montana and the Challenger will rendezvous with us tomorrow, Laura told her crew. We'll coordinate our next strikes then. Most importantly, they had access to the Crevan BattleNet, the communication system that linked all enemy ships and bases. This allowed them to eavesdrop on enemy plans and occasionally feed false information to confuse the invaders. On Earth, Eric Mitchell's success against the Boulder outpost had inspired resistance cells worldwide. His tactics had spread through the survivor network. Attack at night, target weak points in Crevan armor, disable their technology before engaging, and always retreat before reinforcements arrive. Eric now commanded a force of over 500, fighters operating from a hidden base in the Rocky Mountains. They had stockpiled captured Crevan weapons and equipment, learning to use the aliens' technology against them. Their next supply convoy will come through this valley, Eric said, pointing to a map spread on a table. Around him stood the leaders of his fighting groups. Based on their patterns, they'll have 4 escort vehicles and minimal air support. Linda Harris, now his second-in-command, studied the map. Perfect place for an ambush. Steep walls, limited escape routes. Jeff Bradley, who led the weapons team, added, "We've modified the captured Crevan rifles. They're lighter now, better suited for human hands. And we've figured out how to recharge their power cells using solar panels." Eric nodded. "We hit them. Tomorrow at dusk. Their night vision is poor, but it's still light enough for us to see. Take out the escorts first, then secure the supply vehicles. We need those medical supplies." The Resistance had learned that Crevans relied on fixed patrol, patterns, and predictable tactics. When their standard approaches failed, their hierarchical command structure often collapsed. Human fighters exploited these weaknesses, striking quickly and vanishing before the aliens could organize effective responses. In the mountain facility, Dr. Samantha Wells and her team had fully decoded the Crevan language. This breakthrough came after careful study of the technical manuals captured during the Boulder raid. With this knowledge, they gained access to the aliens' computer systems and discovered something crucial. All Crevan ships and bases use the same operating system, Samantha explained to General Rivera and military leaders from around the world, connected through secure video links. It's standardized across their entire fleet, and it has significant vulnerabilities. The general leaned forward. "What kind of vulnerabilities?" Samantha displayed lines of alien code on the main screen. "Their system prioritizes efficiency over security. We've identified several backdoors that were left in place during development. More importantly, we've created a virus that could temporarily disable their systems." A colonel from the European command spoke up. "How would we deliver this virus?" "That's the difficult part," Samantha admitted. "It would need to be uploaded directly into their main communication hub. Each Crevan fleet has one central ship that coordinates all others." General Rivera studied the information. "We need to get this virus to Captain Mercer. Her ships might be able to get close enough to broadcast it." The Resistance now had a global communication network using modified Crevan devices and old ham radio systems. This allowed coordination between groups that would have been impossible in the early days of the invasion. A plan began to take shape, a coordinated global offensive. While Eric Mitchell's forces would lead a major ground assault on the main Crevan base in North America, other resistance groups worldwide would simultaneously attack Crevan positions on every continent. Meanwhile, Captain Mercer would position the human space fleet to broadcast Dr. Wells' virus directly into the Crevan fleet. The day before the offensive, Eric addressed his fighters. "Tomorrow, we show these aliens that taking Earth was the biggest mistake they ever made. They thought we would surrender after their first attack. They thought their technology made them invincible. They were wrong." His words were transmitted to resistance groups across the planet. Millions of humans prepared to fight for their world. In orbit, Laura Mercer received the virus program from Dr. Wells. "This had better work," she told her crew as they made final Preparations. We'll only get one shot at this. The attack began at dawn. Across the planet, human fighters struck Crevan positions with coordinated precision. In North America, Eric led 300 fighters against the main alien base that once was Denver. They used captured Crevan vehicles to approach, fooling the outer sensors. Begin Phase 1, Eric ordered as they reached the perimeter. Dozens of small drones dropped EMP devices on the base's defensive systems, creating gaps in their security. Human fighters rushed through these gaps, targeting specific structures identified from stolen Crevan maps. The aliens responded with heavy weapons, but the humans had studied their tactics. They knew which buildings contained weapon controls, which housed commanders, and which were merely decoys. Small teams broke off to hit critical targets while the main force engaged the Crevan defenders. In orbit, Laura maneuvered the Defiant close to the main Crevan command ship, using debris from destroyed satellites as cover. The Montana and Challenger approached from different angles, ready to engage the enemy's attention. "They've spotted the Montana," Kate reported. "Crevan vessels are moving to intercept." "Perfect," Laura said. "Begin virus upload now." As Crevan ships moved to engage the Montana and Challenger, the Defiant broadcast Dr. Wells's virus directly into the enemy command network. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then alarms began to sound across the bridge. "It's working," Kate exclaimed. "Their systems are going haywire. Their defensive protocols are activating against their own ships." On screen, the crew watched in amazement as Crevan vessels began firing on each other, their automated defense, systems identifying friendly ships as threats. The virus had worked better than anyone expected, causing a catastrophic failure in their target identification protocols. On Earth, Crevan soldiers suddenly lost communication with their commanders. Their weapon systems glitched, some shutting down entirely. In Denver, Eric's forces pushed forward, securing key sections of the alien base. "They're in disarray," Linda reported as her team captured the main control center. "They don't know what to do without orders from above." For the first time since the invasion began, humans reclaimed significant territories. Resistance forces secured Crevan bases and outposts worldwide. Captured alien equipment and weapons strengthened the human position. In the Denver base, Eric's team found a high-ranking Crevan commander. Under guard, the alien was brought to a secure room where Dr. Wells waited with translators. The Crevan stared at the humans with 4 yellow eyes. "You fight well for primitives," it said through the translation device. "We're full of surprises," Eric replied. The alien made a clicking sound that the translator didn't catch. "It does not matter. What you faced was merely an expeditionary force. The main armada still prepares in our home systems. When they arrive, your resistance will end." Dr. Wells and Eric exchanged looks. Earth had won a significant battle, but the war was far from over. The Crevan Empire was vast, with resources beyond imagination. Yet for the first time there was hope. Humanity had proven they could fight back, adapt, and win. As reports of victories came in from around the world, General Rivera addressed the united human forces. "Today we showed them we will not surrender. Tomorrow we prepare for the next phase, taking the fight beyond our world." 6 months after the Crevan Empire's first attack, Earth had reached a turning point. Humans and aliens were locked in a stalemate. Large parts of the planet remained under Crevan control, but humans had established safe zones that grew larger each week. The knowledge gained from captured Crevan technology had allowed humanity to make huge leaps forward in weapons, shields, and communication systems. Captain Laura Mercer stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiant, looking at the tactical display. Her ship was no longer alone. 3 additional Earth vessels had been retrofitted with Crevan technology, creating a small but effective human space fleet. The Montana, Challenger, and Intrepid formed a protective screen around Earth, waiting for the moment when the main Crevan armada would arrive. "Status report," Laura called out. Joe Bennett looked up from his engineering station. "All systems green, Captain. The new Crevan-human hybrid engines are performing better than expected. We're getting 40% more power with 20% less fuel consumption." "Kate," Nelson added from communications. We're still intercepting their long-range signals. Based on what we're hearing, the main Crevan fleet is about 8 months from arrival. They're gathering forces from across their empire for what they're calling a final pacification mission. Laura frowned. 8 months wasn't much time to prepare for an invasion force that would dwarf what they'd already faced. But humans had one advantage. The Crevans didn't know how much their technology had been compromised. On Earth, Eric Mitchell now commanded the newly formed Earth Defense Forces. What began as scattered resistance groups had become a unified military organization. Thousands of soldiers trained daily with adapted Crevan weapons and vehicles in hidden bases around the world. The key is to be unpredictable, Eric told a group of new squad leaders in the Rocky Mountain headquarters. Crevans rely on patterns and protocols. When we break those patterns, they struggle to adapt. He demonstrated a new weapon, a modified Crevan rifle that had been reshaped to fit human hands. Their armor is still tough, but we've found the weak points. Aim for the joints and vision plates, and remember, they see differently than we do. They can't track fast movements as well as humans can. Linda Harris entered the training room with urgent news. The council is meeting. They want you there right away. The World Defense Council had formed from the remains of governments around the globe. Military leaders, scientists, and civilian representatives worked together to coordinate Earth's defense. They met in a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, connected to similar bunkers worldwide through secure Crevan communication technology. As Eric entered the council room, he saw Dr. Samantha Wells finishing a presentation. General Rivera nodded to Eric as he took his seat. Dr. Wells has made another breakthrough, the general explained. Tell him, Doctor. Samantha brought up a display showing complex equations and diagrams. We've been studying the Crevan ships, faster-than-light drive systems. They use a method of travel that creates a detectable ripple in space-time before arrival. She pointed to a graph showing energy spikes. This means we can detect their ships before they actually arrive in our solar system. It would give us advance warning of the main fleet. Eric leaned forward. How much warning? At least 48 hours, Samantha replied. But that's not all. Their FTL drives have a critical weakness. They're vulnerable to specific energy frequencies that disrupt their field generators. We believe we could create weapons that target this weakness. The implications were enormous. Instead of just preparing for the arrival of the Crevan fleet, Earth might be able to set a trap. General Rivera addressed the council. We've been on the defensive since this war began. Dr. Wells's discovery gives us an opportunity to take the initiative. I propose a new strategy. Instead of waiting for the main Crevan fleet to arrive, we take the fight to space. The plan that emerged was bold. Using captured Crevan shuttles and the retrofitted Earth vessels, humans would launch an assault on the remaining enemy ships in orbit. If successful, they would secure space around Earth and capture more alien vessels. The operation began 3 days later. Captain Mercer led the Defiant and her sister ships against the Crevan orbital positions. Meanwhile, Earth forces launched dozens of captured Crevan shuttles carrying Special Forces troops trained to board and seize enemy vessels. All ships commence attack pattern Delta, Laura ordered as the human fleet moved from behind Earth's moon, where they had gathered in secret. The Crevan ships responded quickly, but they were confused by the mixed signals they received. Some of the approaching vessels registered as friendly on their sensors due to Joe's clever modifications. The battle in orbit was fierce. The Defiant took heavy damage to its port side as it engaged a Crevan destroyer. The Montana was nearly destroyed, but managed to disable 2 enemy gunships before withdrawing. Human boarding parties succeeded in capturing several smaller Crevan vessels, though at a heavy cost in lives. The most valuable prize was a Crevan capital ship, damaged but mostly intact. As human engineers and scientists swarmed over the vessel, they discovered its long-range communication capabilities were still functional. Laura Mercer and Eric Mitchell met with Dr. Wells aboard the captured capital ship, which humans had named the Phoenix. Can we use this to contact the Crevan homeworld? Eric asked, looking at the alien communication array. Samantha nodded. Yes, but more importantly, we can use it to send a message to their incoming fleet. Laura understood immediately. Instead of just preparing for their arrival, we can warn them about what they'll face if they continue this invasion. Exactly, Samantha said. But we need to do more than just warn them. We need to show them. A new plan took shape. The Phoenix would be partially retrofitted for human use. Its weapon systems would be enhanced using Earth military principles that Crevan engineers had never considered, creating hybrid technology that exceeded the capabilities of either civilization alone. On Earth, Eric oversaw the construction of massive defensive systems using adapted Crevan technology, ground-based energy weapons, orbital defense platforms, and a global shield system took shape. Humanity compressed centuries of technological advancement into months, driven by the desperate need for survival. 2 weeks later, Dr. Wells presented her finished message to the World Defense Council. It contained comprehensive data on every Crevan loss during the Earth campaign, details of how humans had reverse-engineered and improved upon Crevan technology, and a simple warning. Any further aggression against Earth would result in humans bringing the fight directly to the heart of the Empire. Will they understand the threat? General Rivera asked. They understand power, Samantha replied. The Crevan Empire respects only strength. We need to show them that humans aren't just fighting for survival. We're capable of taking the war to them. Captain Mercer was given command of the Phoenix. The ship maintained much of its Crevan appearance, which would give her a crucial advantage: the ability to approach the incoming fleet without immediate identification as a human-controlled vessel. As the final preparations were made, Laura addressed her crew, a mix of her original team from the Defiant and specialists chosen for their expertise with Crevan systems. In 1 month, we'll intercept the Crevan main fleet at the edge of our solar system, she told them. Our mission is to deliver Dr. Wells's message and show them what happens when they underestimate humanity. They attacked Earth thinking we were primitive and weak. We'll show them just how wrong they were. Eric Mitchell watched from a view screen as the Phoenix prepared to depart Earth orbit. His forces were ready if the mission failed, but he hoped it wouldn't come to that. Do you think it will work? Linda asked as they watched the hybrid ship move away from Earth. It has to, Eric replied, because if it doesn't, the next battle will make the first invasion look like a minor skirmish. The Phoenix accelerated away from Earth, its modified engines glowing with a new intensity. On board, Laura Mercer looked at the stars ahead. No longer as potential victims, but as equals ready to take their place in a much larger, more dangerous universe. The Empire had attacked Earth first. Now they would face the consequences of awakening a species that refused to be conquered. 2 months remained before the arrival of the main Crevan fleet. Across Earth, humans worked day and night to prepare their defenses. The captured capital ship, now named Phoenix, had been transformed. It still looked like a Crevan vessel from Yastin, the outside, but inside it was something new, a hybrid of 2 technologies that created something greater than either alone. Captain Laura Mercer walked through the command deck of the Phoenix, inspecting the final preparations. Her best crew members from the Defiant had joined her, along with specialists chosen from around the world for their expertise. How are the weapon systems? Laura asked Joe Bennett, who had become chief engineer of the Phoenix. Better than we hoped, Joe replied, showing her the readings on a display that mixed Crevan symbols with human interfaces. We've enhanced their energy cannons using principles they never considered. Their weapons were powerful but inefficient. Ours are less powerful but more precise. By combining both approaches, we've created weapons that exceed anything either civilization had before. Laura nodded. And the shields? Triple-layered, Joe said proudly. We took their single-field concept and added our multi-phase approach. It takes more power, but it's far more effective. On Earth, Eric Mitchell oversaw the construction of massive defensive systems. Ground-based energy weapons, capable of striking targets in orbit, were placed at strategic locations around the planet. A network of satellites formed an early warning system that could detect approaching ships. Most impressive was the global shield system, adapted from Crevan technology but modified to protect an entire planet. Will it hold against a full fleet attack? Eric asked Dr. Wells as they inspected the main shield generator buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. For a while, Samantha replied honestly. It's not meant to be permanent, it just needs to last long enough for our counterattack to work. Eric had seen the changes in the scientist over the past months. Like all of them, she had been transformed by the war. Her theoretical knowledge had become practical wisdom. Her understanding of the Krevans had become the key to humanity's survival. "The message is ready," Samantha told him. "It contains everything we want them to know. And nothing we don't." The final message to be transmitted to the Krevan Empire contained comprehensive data on every Krevan lost during the Earth campaign. Details of how humans had reverse-engineered and improved upon Krevan technology, and a simple warning. Any further aggression against Earth would result in humans bringing the fight directly to the heart of the Empire. As the day of the Phoenix's departure approached, Laura addressed her crew on the main deck. "Tomorrow we leave to intercept the Krevan fleet," she said, looking at the faces of humans who had survived the worst attack in Earth's history. "Our mission is simple but crucial. We will deliver Dr. Wells's message to the Krevan High Command. We will demonstrate our capabilities, and we will make them understand that continuing this war will cost them more than they're willing to pay." The crew listened silently. They knew the risks. If the plan failed, they would be destroyed, and Earth would face an enemy far greater than before. "They attacked us believing we were primitive and weak," Laura continued. "They expected us to surrender or be destroyed. Instead, we adapted. We learned. We grew stronger. Now we show them what happens when they underestimate humanity." The next morning, the Phoenix departed Earth orbit. Its engines, a perfect blend of human and Krevan technology, pushed it to speeds no Earth vessel had ever achieved before. Within days, it had passed the orbit of Mars, then Jupiter. It raced toward the edge of the solar system where it would intercept the approaching Krevan armada. On Earth, Eric Mitchell and General Rivera watched the Phoenix's progress from the command center. Around them, military leaders from around the world monitored their defenses, ready if the mission failed. "She'll succeed," Eric said with quiet confidence. The general nodded. "She has to." Aboard the Phoenix, Laura and her crew detected the first signs of the Krevan fleet. Just as Dr. Wells had predicted, the alien ship's faster-than-light drives created ripples in space-time that could be detected before their arrival. 67 ships, reported Kate Nelson from the sensor station. Their main fleet is 3 times larger than the force that first attacked Earth. Laura took a deep breath. "Maintain Krevan appearance protocols. They should see us as one of their own ships until we're ready to reveal ourselves." The Phoenix approached the edge of the solar system where the Krevan fleet would emerge from faster-than-light travel. Using captured identification codes, they positioned themselves as if they were an advanced scout from the expedition force. When the massive Krevan armada arrived, Laura ordered the Phoenix to transmit standard Krevan greetings. The deception worked. The Krevan command ship responded requesting a status report on the Earth pacification. "Now," Laura ordered. The Phoenix transmitted Dr. Wells's message directly to the Krevan High Command. At the same time, they dropped their disguise, revealing the modifications humans had made to the ship. Before the Krevan fleet could respond, Laura ordered a demonstration. The Phoenix fired its enhanced weapons at a small, uninhabited moon. The energy beam cut through the rocky surface, splitting the moon in half with a single shot. The damage far exceeded what Krevan military doctrine believed possible with their own technology. "Message delivered," Kate reported. "They're responding." The Krevan fleet halted its advance. For tense hours, there was silence as the High Command processed this unprecedented situation. Their military doctrine had no protocol for an inferior species, not only resisting successfully, but actually improving upon Krevan technology. Finally, a response came. The Krevan Empire would withdraw from Earth space and recognize human territory as sovereign. "They're turning around," Kate said, disbelief in her voice. "The entire fleet is changing course." Laura allowed herself a small smile. "Transmit to Earth, mission accomplished." When the Phoenix returned to Earth orbit, it was greeted by cheers from every corner of the planet. The news spread quickly. The war was over. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just alive but stronger than before. In the months that followed, The remaining Crevan forces on Earth surrendered or were defeated. The knowledge gained from their technology accelerated human development by centuries. United by the experience of fighting for their very existence, Earth's nations maintained their alliance, creating a global defense force ready to protect their world. 1 year after the initial invasion, Captain Laura Mercer, Eric Mitchell, and Dr. Samantha Wells stood on the observation deck of the new space station Phoenix. Below them, Earth was healing from the scars of war. "What do we do now?" Eric asked, looking out at the stars. Samantha smiled. "We explore. The star charts we recovered from Crevan databases show hundreds of worlds. Some might have suffered attacks like ours." Laura nodded. "And we prepare. The Crevan Empire isn't the only power out there. Next time, we'll be ready." They watched as the first true human interstellar vessel prepared to depart from the station. Built with the knowledge gained from the war, it would take humans beyond their solar system for the first time. The Empire had attacked Earth first, expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a force they never anticipated and received a warning they would never forget. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not as conquerors or victims, but as equals ready to find their place among the stars.